First of all, as we climb out of the deep thaw, we're happy today to have with us some individuals who had a little bit of difficulty getting here. As you can imagine, the last 2 days we weren't sure that this was going to happen, at least I wasn't, listening to the news, and Cleveland Airport closed with almost all flights, even though I should say as a little aside that Akron Canton was open and they said none of the flights were delayed. They were all coming in as usual. A little commercial there for Akron Canton, but we're excited for this announcement today because it adds, again, another company, and specifically a biomedical company that has announced that they want to come here to Akron to set up their location to be able to build on success that we know they're going to have in an area that's vitally needed, in an area that they're going to talk a little bit more about. But Nerive is a company that has developed a revolutionary medical device called VitaFlow to help stroke victims. And I did mention, I don't know, it's the beginning of the year, and I haven't dealt with you folks for a while, so I'm in a good mood. But I told them, I hate to disappoint you, but I went to my heart doctor yesterday and everything is fine. My blood pressure's down, all my cholesterol and all those things. Good news. So good news for me, not so good for Nirvive. But unfortunately, in our society, we have many people who will, I'm sure, be helped and assisted by their new device that's coming on the market. Nerive is originally a Northern California company that's consolidating its operations and setting up their headquarters here in the Akron Global Business Accelerator. Or if they are successful in recruiting people and looking at other sites, we're assisting them, and they may set up somewhere else. I just mentioned that. But right now, we're in Akron. We're going to welcome them to the Business Accelerator. We have with us today Mark Borsati, who is, all three of them are to my right, Chief Medical Officer and the inventor of the VitaFlow, and a stroke neurologist, who incidentally studied at Ohio State. They just lost 2 big games in the last week, basketball last night and football game a week ago. Jerry Gibson is Nirvive's CEO, who's built a team of 9 scientists and product engineers, and Subha Shankar is a PhD and Chief Technology Officer and a Case Western-trained biomedical engineer and neuroscientist who has extensive background in medical device development. And they're all 3 great guys, and they laugh at my jokes. I want to thank all 3 of you for your commitment here to Akron, and I don't want to go into explaining the device. I think probably that Jerry's going to do a better job of that. But one of the things that we've assisted in this process, this company, is to provide some funding through the Akron Development Corporation and the Akron Bio Investment Fund that was set up about 2 years ago with money we received from Medical Mutual, and we designated it as assisting our efforts working with the Bioinnovation Institute, ABIA, and Dr. Douglas and others, Zev Gurian, who's helped us with a number of projects. Bob Anthony has specifically worked on this project with us, and through the combination of people working together collaboratively here, we have this great announcement today. And I want to thank Bob and my team here, Bob Bowman and Sam DeSager, who really know how to provide good service for people. And I think it is, without saying, but I'm going to say it again, we're getting a great reputation for helping businesses. And if you haven't seen it, you ought to look at the Philadelphia article about how shocked they were. And it's almost great to see that in writing, that a company was looking at Philadelphia, but they decided to go to Akron, Ohio. And you can imagine those arrogant such and such folks in the East Coast saying, oh my God, why would they go to Akron, Ohio? But they talked to the company, and now Mayor Nutter and others are going to Israel and try to duplicate and mirror our success by going and working on relationships there in Israel. And I've said to some people, I ought to stop telling our story. because it's like a patent that we are telling and sharing with everyone, but I don't know why I'm in a good mood today. But let me call upon Jerry Gibson, because you probably want to know more about this device in case any of you haven't visited your doctors and you're under extreme stress, and you might need this device. This is a good company to have developing this. So Jerry is going to come up, and he's the CEO, and talk about the company and how they got here and a little bit about the VitalFlow system and what it can do. So, Jerry? Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, it was certainly a pleasure to have the opportunity to move our company here from California. I was flying over last night, and I had sitting next to a gentleman, and we were both working, and about 30 minutes before we landed, that we started chatting, and he asked, well, why are you coming to the Cleveland area? And I said, well, we're moving our company from California to Akron. And he went, oh. He said, well, tell me why you decided to do that. And I went through about 7 or 8 different reasons why it was very important. I mentioned that the Akron Bio Investment Fund was providing a small loan to us that would assist us in this process. But the main reason was because the infrastructure, the development partners were here, the talent, engineering, scientists were here, world-class healthcare facilities are in this area. And, Northern Ohio has had a rich history, if some of you may not know, going back a number of years ago. Picker International was started in the Cleveland area, and there's a lot of people who have created companies and have joined other companies in that process over the years. That company is now owned by Philips. So there is a large medical practice, a medical device development process going on here in Ohio, and we're happy to be just a part of that. We believe we're bringing a very unique technology to the marketplace, one that really addresses a critical unmet need in the area of time for stroke victims. People who have that condition have a limited time to get treatment, and we are providing a device that will accelerate that process and present that patient to other technologies for therapeutic purposes as a healthier patient. Hopefully we find that works out to be better outcomes for these individuals. A very expensive proposition for our healthcare system, and we hope that we can address in minimizing and mitigating some of the problems for these patients that exist today. So that's basically a little bit about what we're doing, and we're excited about coming. We'll be setting up at the accelerator for a couple of months, and then soon we'll be expanding into additional offices. We are working with people already in this general area. Spartan is our development partner in Strongsville, correct? So they are a great organization who's had experience in the domain and the technology that we're working with, which is electromagnetic technology. And we're looking forward to continuing our relationship with them and building our organization here in Akron. So I'm open for any questions if anyone has anything you'd like to have addressed.
Can you tell them just a little bit about how this system works?
Maybe the best person to do that is the person who invented the technology, and I'd rather give that to Mark and have him just briefly describe what this technology does and how it performs, at least through our preclinical trials, as to what we expect to deliver.
Sure.
My name is Mark Borsodi. I'm the Chief Medical Officer of Nerive and the inventor of the VitalFlow stimulator. The basic technology that we're using is pulses of magnetic energy directed at a specific nerve in the head, a nerve that comes out of the brainstem called the facial nerve, and that controls, as we best know it, the movements of the muscles of facial expression. The facial nerve has a secondary property that's not clinically used to dilate the arteries of the brain. So we use magnetic pulses of energy directed at the nerve to activate the nerve and then dilate the arteries of the brain. Does that address your question?
Sounds simple.
So that you might just want to say, and then when you do open up that deals with what?
Well, so stroke at its fundamental level is a plumbing problem. It is a problem of an artery of the brain either getting occluded with a blood clot or bursting open, bleeding in and around the brain. It's just that simple in some ways. What we do is actually make the artery bigger. We make the pipe bigger. And so it expands around a blood clot that is obstructing it, restoring blood flow to the part of the brain downstream from the obstruction.
How long will it take to develop this before it can actually start to be used?
Well, we plan to have a prototype of the device ready for clinical testing in 2015.
And how much memory loss to the patient after getting zapped?
Well, we don't expect any memory loss because we're not stimulating the brain. We're actually stimulating this nerve that runs underneath the brain. And so our engineering aim is to develop a stimulator that's very focal. It's very directed at the nerve. And so it avoids stimulating the brain and increases its safety, of course.
When you talk about medical devices, what is the process of, you know, do you have to get certification at certain levels by certain groups?
Well, the regulatory process is what you're asking about,
Yeah.
I believe. So the regulatory process is largely country by country. In the U.S., there are 3 levels of medical device regulatory standing, class 1, 2, and 3. An increasing number, meaning essentially a more invasive, more complex device treating a sicker patient.
Mm-hmm.
So we expect that this device will be a class 3 device in the U.S.
So and the first step would be, from this point, once you get to Akron, to do what?
Well, we plan to initiate the development work, which is more of Suba's area. With the design in hand for a clinical device, we would then employ that device to treat stroke patients in small studies initially. The aim there is to show the device is safe and tolerable in stroke patients, and as a secondary aim, to show that it's effective. Once you show that it's safe and tolerable in the smaller studies, you can expand on that data and that knowledge, advance into bigger studies where the focus, of course, is always on safety for the patient and tolerability of the device, but also increases the need to demonstrate efficacy, that you're actually doing some good for them.
Would this be something the ERs would purchase, and that's its main use?
That's the device we envision.
Okay.
So the initial testing in 2015, would that be on actual stroke patients, or would that be on healthy patients as a phase 1?
So it would be, so before 2015, we do plan normal subject studies, non-stroke patients. In 2015, we plan to study the stroke patients themselves.
Might mention it too, that ultimately this device could be in ambulances even.
That's our longer term aim,
Oh, I see.
is to have a smaller version of the device that's portable, that can be carried out to the stroke patient in the ambulance, treating in the field.
Mark, you may want to describe as well as how the facial nerve is actually stimulated.
Sure. You can see they know us pretty well. Right? So the facial nerve so happens to run just behind the ear, straight down the ear, straight down the ear canal, about a centimeter past the middle ear space. That's that little area behind the eardrum where all the kids get their ear infections. Just past that middle ear space, there's a little bony wall, and the facial nerve runs right behind that bony wall. So your ear canal essentially points to the target, and we intend to use that anatomical guidance to orient the magnetic field.
The magnetic field is attached to a,
Oh, you really want a description of this. Well, we do provide some images of what the device ultimately will look like. The device is fundamentally a headset that positions magnetic stimulation coils over the ears, that it's simple to use, does not require any diagnostic evaluation in order to place the headset on the patient. Simply put it on, secure it, push the button. It should be that simple. That's again one of our design and development and indeed use aims for this device.
Anything else? Thanks,
Mr. Mayor.
appreciate it, thank you.
My pleasure.
You know, I consider myself a creative guy, and I've got them working on a little side project, which is that memory loss thing. I wear a helmet just before I come into a press conference, and it wipes out my memory of any involvement with anybody from the press in the past, and I come in and I'm in a good mood again. And I welcome all of you. It's good to see you. Great new year. Hi. Great to see all of you.
Mayor, can you talk about how many new jobs this might be coming to Akron?
Well,
What type?
What are you planning up for the
It'd be the high double
2015?
digits. Overtime.
High double digits, but over the next couple of years while they're developing this, they're looking for engineers and scientists who work on this development process, and then, it's unlimited. If they start to develop these and make these, then, that's what we look for, is manufacturing of the actual product here as well. So none of these, when they start out, I tend to take off on this question sometimes, because it's rare that we have a Ruchling that opens with 150 jobs. Goodyear started out with probably 2 or 3 people. Everyone starts out small, and then the capacity to grow, and that's really what we're looking at here, is potential. And then, as most companies develop, they develop these side projects, like the ones that I suggested about wiping out my memory. And then they go into other product lines. So that's what we're looking for, is establishing these potentially strong companies to grow here and grow the jobs. But it's not thousands of jobs coming at any one time. And I guess we get this periodically, and people don't realize these small little companies that grow into a bigger company. But you got to start somewhere, and that's what they're doing here. They're locating their headquarters, if you will, for this product here in Akron, and we're hoping that they grow not only the professionals behind the scenes, but when they get into the development stage and actual approval from the FDA, that they would manufacture these here and add other jobs. So that's been the whole sort of plan in the biomedical field, to start these companies and then see them and help them grow when they manufacture their product here. So any
Is it still, Jerry, it's still safe to say that this is a game changer?
Without a question. We continue along
Can you, speaker on, thanks.
If we continue along the path that we have traveled for the last 2.5 years, and we move into clinical trials on humans, and we get the same results, this is something that is a paradigm shift and a game changer in the way we treat patients who have this condition, as well as how we are able to treat patients after they've had this condition and gone through some level of therapeutic process. So it's quite significant. This is my 5th startup, and this is by far the most profound technology that can make a change to individuals' lives, and that makes us all proud that we're working in that direction.
Aren't there a lot of new stroke drug therapies now that sort of solve this problem?
No. There's 800,000 people in the United States alone who have strokes, and there is a device, or is a pharma that's out. In fact, Mark knows it very well because he was the chief medical officer for the business unit that had that product from Genentech. It's TPA, and it can only be administered within the first 4 hours after the onset of the patient's stroke event. And a lot of times we don't know when that started, so it's a matter of washing out that therapeutic opportunity because we don't know when it was initiated. But after that, there are endovascular devices that go in and retrieve the clot if it's an ischemic stroke, as an example. What we're doing is that we're presenting a healthier patient in that process, so that you're not taking a patient who's lost a significant amount of their brain before going into that. We're going to give that tissue an opportunity to still live, then go into that. So it's a very significant positioning of this product. It's not removing any technology that's available today. It's enhancing and supporting what's out there, but providing, most importantly, a healthy patient going into those procedures, and that's critical, mission critical.
How many people in the company at the moment, or that will come to the accelerator?
There's 9 of us now. 5 of those are located in Germany, where we're doing research on magnets, designing a special magnet. We will not grow any further in Germany. We'll start placing people here in the future.
Were your previous startups all in biomed devices?
Oh, yes, yeah.
So we initially have 4 here in Akron? Is that you're keeping the 5 in Germany?
5 in Germany, 4 here, and then I'm interviewing someone tomorrow to hopefully make that 5 and
Oh, okay.
going from there.
So the plans for- okay.
So we're building the leadership here, and then working with our partners that we have here already, and then expanding our company as required.
And you're thinking that someday even manufacturing would be possible in the
Yes,
States?
no question about that, along with all customer support activities that occur once the systems go out into the field. There's a lot of activity behind the scenes that support hospitals, whether it's the customer service, or technology training or technology servicing, all of those will be centered here.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thank you.
Okay, the obligatory last question. Anything else? Any other subjects you want to talk about? Okay, thank you. Thanks. Thanks.